Are these? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Chair, to select order of business, I do have one, we made a last minute addition to the agenda that was an oversight. We forgot communication to the board and public comment, so that is added. It was officially submitted, so that is our next order of business. So we will start with that. I did get one correspondence communication of the board that I will submit to the minutes. And if I find it. From Eric White and regarding second grade sections that I will forward to you, Colleen, for the minutes. And I believe, Jeff, you also received some correspondence as well?
Yes. Yep. Received a couple other emails, specifically 3 more emails regarding the same topic.
Okay.
For second grade.
So we'll submit those and attach them to the minutes. Moving into public comment itself. Just give me a second here. I just want to talk about our, if I can find it, our rules for public comment. According to our bylaws, 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes per each subject matter. No boisterous conduct shall be permitted. Persistence in boisterous conduct shall be grounds for summary termination by the chairperson of that person's privilege of address. If necessary, the chairperson may clear the room so the board can continue the meeting. No oral presentation shall include charges or complaints against any employee of the Board of Education, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified in the presentation by name or by any reference which tends to identify an individual. All charges or complaints against employees shall be submitted to the Board of Education under provisions of Board of Education policy. So that being said, anyone like to public comment tonight? Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Paulie Carlson. I live at 455 West Hill Road, Hartford. This is to the Board of Education. I was at the budget review meeting when the superintendent announced that he planned, that he has plans to buy a new instructional program to teach the children to read. I was surprised. I always thought this was the primary job of the school. Well, if you look at the scores of the students over the last 10 to 12 years in this system, you'll see the school system has done a very poor job. During that time, the Board of Education has shown no concern or interest in longitudinal failure. The superintendent said the board had budgeted $100,000 for the new program. I realized that one of the programs being looked at was the Fontes program. The program has been questioned by scientists to study and understand how children learn to read. There are educators who understand science and use that knowledge to teach reading. Office of the devil is not among them. There are two groups of people who say they know how children learn to read. Educators who believe they know, but don't. Their methods are based on beliefs, not research and data. The other group are scientists who have experimented, tested, and retested. They know and understand how children learn. The four major subject areas around the science of reading and education, psychology, linguistics, and neuroscience. The science of reading encompasses 5 components: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. In brief, the science of reading embraces the systematic, explicit teaching of sounds and letters. When they learn how to crack the code, the students are introduced to the rich stories, texts that build their background knowledge. Eventually, teachers help students weave their skills together like strands in a rope, allowing them to read more complex texts. The Fontenelle method's approach to reading creates learning difficulties for which their curriculum then offers solutions. The rationale for the approach collapses if children are not given sufficient opportunity to gain basic skills. The balanced literary approach essentially fails to serve 65% of children. It's important to note that 35% will learn no matter the method, and will not be harmed by learning code. Now, in the field of education, there are educators and there are educational bureaucrats. How can you tell them? The principal of Panther Valley Elementary School bought the Fontenelle program. When his teachers told him it's not working, because he's an educator, he realized he had made a bad decision, and he bought a science program that is working. Now 60% of third graders are now proficient, up from 30% at the beginning of the school year. The other way to tell if you have a bureaucrat is when he forms committees to make decisions. That way, it's never his decision, never his responsibility, never his fault. It's the committee's decision. When the superintendent told me he had 2 committees to study the issue, I knew you'd hired a bureaucrat. You hired him to make a decision. You required him to make a selection, document his reasons, be responsible for implementation. After all, that's why you hired him. By the way, I'm not sure he plans to stay. Murphy is still listed. There are 17 fundamental principles for teaching. Connecticut did not eliminating reviewing instructional initial determining attention in third grade based on state. Multiple options. This is my prediction. Unless the new program is on its way, it will fail. It will fail for the following reasons. Old language, balanced literacy are deeply flawed concepts. There are other reasons why failure may happen, even if the program is not. Teaching is distributed across 7 grades of each school. Supervision 3. Supervision coordination is teaching distributed and will not be considered. The superintendent will tell the board it will take time for the teachers to learn the material. Then you will know you've had a bureaucrat, not an educator. Of course, while that's happening, children not learning to read. If you want to understand the problems in science and how children learn to read and what to do about it, the book you should read is Language at the Speed of Sight by Mark Seichenberg. A phonics-based system will work. That said, there are words that have to be learned, like dumb and enough. And I made a copy. Well, And there are references to the material.
Were you a teacher, Mr. Carroll?
No, I was a colonel in there.
I'm all set. I'm good. Thank you.
Ignorance of the bliss.
I'm an educator.
Ignorance of the bliss.
Mr. Carlson.
All right, anyone else for public comment tonight? All right. Moving on to the chair's report, I have nothing to report today. So we'll move right into the superintendent's report. Jeff?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Want to kick off our Board of Education meeting. We've been remiss. We haven't met in a moment. We've been very busy. The month of April has flown by. We are now well into May and the end of the school year in sight, which is scary and exciting all at the same exact time. So wanted to kick off first by letting the board know, as we celebrated the board's work and commitment to education, we also took the time to celebrate our administrative assistants at our schools within the past month and a half, our school nurses and our teachers, which some here are in the audience. So we're just so grateful and indebted to all of the work that they do with our children each and every day. Thank you so, so much. Our students have been up to a lot as well. Students currently are at White Memorial. They are exploring ponds and ecosystems and just having a tremendous time building community, collaborative skills, critical thinking, researching, journal writing. I had the opportunity to go and visit with Mrs. Stapleton's class last week, and I plan to go and visit with the remainder of the classes going this week as well. The kids are absolutely having a phenomenal time. If you didn't have a chance to also see our school play, that was right here at Ann and Tellini. It was amazing to all of the performers. They did such a great job. To Dr. Carroll and all the producers and all the educators that helped support the play. It was wonderful. Students are also working on pinch pots in art, if you haven't seen that. Students are writing fairy tales. How do I know that? I played hoop with a couple kids that told me that they are working on fairy tales, and they're also in mathematics working on applying fractions and percentages to gardens that they are working on, which is incredible. Students have also been working on erosion caused by weather, land conservation, and even last night, our talented and gifted students put on their presentations right here at Ann and Tellini in our library. Students gave presentations of various topics from community connections with Little Free Libraries to donations for toiletries for those that are in need and collections for shelters for pets as well. So just beautiful, wonderful things that are taking place here in New Hartford. Absolutely amazing. I also want to give a wonderful shout out to two students that are here in the audience today. I have Ali Cravanzola and I have Declan Murphy, who have the honor and privilege of being here today to receive the Litchfield County Superintendent's Award. So we had a wonderful banquet honoring them last couple weeks ago, actually. It was beautiful. And I'm just so honored that they are here today. I want to present them with their award and a quick little bio as well. They didn't know about this part. Ali Cravanzola is a sixth grader here at Ann and Tellini School in New Hartford. Ali demonstrates leadership skills and a positive attitude and also blushes a little bit. At school, she enjoys social studies, playing clarinet in the band, and being creative in art club. Ali is on the High Flyers jump rope team, math Olympiads, and has a role in the school play. Outside of school, she plays softball, loves spending time with her family, and creating with Legos. Declan Murphy is a sixth grader here at Ann and Tellini School in New Hartford. Declan strives to better himself academically through extra studying after school. He plays trumpet in the school band and is on the Math Olympiads team. Outside of school, Declan loves snowboarding and is on the travel soccer team. He enjoys spending time with his family and friends and exercising his dog. Declan aspires to become a computer engineer or a software designer. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to officially present them the awards that they have won for being amazing leaders and role models in their schools and in their school communities, in their families. They have great influence over all that they connect with. I have been personally extremely impressed with both of these individuals, so I'm presenting them with the award tonight. Come on up. Congratulations again to you both. All right. Also want to give a great shout out to our PTO. Recently, they've put on a wonderful event, the Family Fun Day. And I also want to give a shout out to the Collinsville Canoe and Kayak, who were very, very generous to donate me a wetsuit as I entered into the 44-degree murky water of the Farmington Valley that was in the dunk tank. It's fine. My skin has recovered. It's good. It's all good. Everything is great. But again, great thanks to the PTO working hard for our fundraising efforts to support our schools and our students. We are so grateful to the PTO, and also a shout out to Collinsville Canoe. John and Sue, I believe, are the owners there. They are absolutely wonderful, and they would not take any of my money. They said anything for our students. So I was very proud to partner with them as well. And last but not least, our budget, if you haven't been abreast of the news, has passed. I'm super excited. Call it kiddie excitement, but my first time as superintendent to have a budget approved and pass referendum. Felt good, felt good. So thank you to the board for all of your support, and thank you community members for all of your support as well. All right, moving on to another exciting topic. We have our student performance presentation for the year. So I'm going to call up my team of Dr. Carroll, Amy Kennedy, and Heather Mathis. And I'll set up my presentation here for the board.
Did we
The other
lose,
piece, oops, sorry.
did we lose any ducks in the duck race?
No. Good question, Penny. We were not able to hold the actual duck race because
Oh.
the water levels were much too high.
Oh,
Not
that's too bad.
safe. MDC said,
That's
nope.
too bad.
So we did another type of variation with the ducks in the bounce house. You had to have been there to see it. It was absolutely phenomenal. Another quick piece of information regarding enrollment history, just want to project on the screen behind me. The Board of Ed had asked me to produce additional information before we go on to our student performance. It was included in their budget, and I will include it online for our families at home as well. With students, we were asked to add the IEP, students with IEPs, and then students receiving special education support over the course of the time that I was able to go back from 2017 to 18. Again, for the board's viewing and also for those at home as well to see. All right, let me get into presentation mode here. Paul, we looking okay? All right, fantastic. Yeah, and I'd be remiss to not say thank you for Paul Carbon, our IT director, being here this evening to make sure everything goes smoothly for tonight's presentation. Much appreciated, from audio to visual. Thank God for a great staff. All right. So we're going to kick off with some very exciting information that we want to share with the Board of Education and also all of our public. It's relative to our scores now and some historical pieces as well. I don't want to be in the way of the presentation, so I'm going to step to the side. But the information that we're going to see today, we're going to take a look at some of the assessments that we have currently, our historical impact or historical growth of our students, and some areas that we're going to see, that might look a little curious. We might have some work to do there. And then towards the end of it, we're going to also talk about our next steps, which are also going to fold into our work for next year and the years to come in our engagement policy, our engagement updates or 5-year engagement plan that you may have seen in the past. So without further ado, I'll call up some of my other teammates. This doesn't work. I'll sit back down. Oh. Okay. We're going to start off with English language arts. We're going to also delve into mathematics today and also into science. So we'll start off with ELA.
Hey, well, thank you, everybody. I am here with the team to start our presentation with ELA, and everybody jump in as we talk through, but we're going to talk a little bit about our DIBELS assessment to get us started. So our DIBELS assessment is a tool that we use. It's a universal tool, which means that we provide that assessment for all students in grades K through 3. It's to assess reading and the foundational skills of reading specifically. So the phonological awareness skills, which are how students can hear and manipulate sounds. It assesses their skills in decoding, that phonics piece, how they can sound out words and blend words together. It assesses students on how well they read in terms of their accuracy and their fluency, and also assesses their comprehension. So it's a really valuable tool, and it also helps us to know if students are at risk for a reading-based disability or dyslexia. So what we're looking at here is a snapshot of our DIBELS data from this year. So I'm just going to go through just so you understand what the charts are showing us. So this is a breakdown of the fall, beginning of the year administration of the DIBELS assessment by grade level. So there's kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. And the top bar represents the beginning of the year in terms of the performance of students and how many of those students are meeting the benchmark, compared to our middle of the year assessment that we administer later in the year around February. And then we will do this all over again with our students at the end of the year to see that fall, winter, and spring growth. So there's a couple of really awesome things to highlight here in terms of the performance of our students. So when we're looking at the kindergarten, thank you. We had an atypical start this year with our kindergarten students. They came in a little bit lower than typical in terms of how many students were meeting the benchmark upon coming into kindergarten. So we had a lot of work to do, and our K teachers did a tremendous job because when they came in, you could see this red bar here and this yellow bar here representing the percentage of students that were below the benchmark, and our students grew 29 percentage points from the fall to the winter. So we saw some tremendous growth in terms of our kindergarten students, which is amazing to see in those skills. And shout out to some of our K teachers that are out there in the audience tonight. And then for grade 1, what I wanted to highlight for our grade 1 is that we have a very strong cohort. So in the beginning of the year, the students performed really well. They came in strong and they maintained that. So critical when we have those strong cohorts that we're continuing their growth and making sure they're maintaining their skills. And that was the case there. Susan, thank you. So they had a strong performing cohort, and between fall and winter, we grew 4 percentage points there. For our second grade, we have a growth of 11 percentage points from fall to winter. And so this is really great here because we had some needs in our second grade this year that we were able to provide a lot of supports and interventions. And what we saw between the fall and the winter is some really good response to those interventions. So we see that 11 percentage point gain from the fall to the winter. And then we have our third grade. So our third grade, we dipped a little bit down 6 percentage points. And I know, Kelly and I and Heather were talking about this, and it's quite a historical trend. We tend to see this happen a lot in the winter of grade 3. So this is something that, stuck out to us as something we want to investigate further and figure out what's going on there to make sure that we're supporting those students. And typically what we also learned as we were diving in here is that by the end of the year, those students tend to catch back up. So it's tends to be this kind of winter dip for that third grade. But something important for us to know as we move forward with program and students.
The only other thing I would add is as we use the data to look for students we support, but we also look to see if we notice trends in certain areas that we might need to look at closely with a grade level team or at a class to make sure. So while we're able to look at students individually, we're also looking at classes and grade levels to see what sort of things we need to support or extend for any of these areas as well.
Right.
Okay, so taking a step back and thinking about our DIBELS data and thinking about how we can look at patterns and trends in the history of the performance. What we have here is a chart that shows all of the students K-3 together, and this compares their fall to fall to fall to fall to see, so we can see consistencies and patterns and trends to help us predict what would be good to do to start the year with kids. So just to kind of talk a little bit more about that, if you want to click that, thank you. So we see here every fall, here's our K-3 students from 1920, from 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23. And we typically see about 22 to 26% of our students coming into the school year, possibly needing to have some intensive intervention. So what's good when we're looking at this is we see that consistency, that pattern. It's going to help us be able to plan and predict. And it also helps us to identify students who might be at risk right at the start of the year to provide those interventions and supports. And then, additionally, thank you. Aside from that 2021 school year, which is this bar here, we had our start of the year, the students' performance was a little bit different from the other years, and that was kind of coming back from COVID and coming back from that COVID closure. But what we see is we're kind of back to our typical pattern where we see at the beginning of the year, this percentage of students meeting or exceeding the benchmark. So we sort of come back to that typical pattern that we see there. What we want to see and can over time is to continue to see our fall start. So when our kids come in and take this assessment, we want to see us showing stronger and stronger results each fall. And that's how we'll know that our programming is improving over time. Okay. Right. Any questions about DIPPLES before moving on to Smarter Balanced?
So there's an end of year assessment as well at the last.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Do you have a rough estimate on like how many students the percentage, means? You're saying, 25% are basically underperforming. What is that number wise? Because we're such a small district.
Yeah, it does say, it actually says here the number of students. So like in this year, we started with 49 students
Okay.
throughout K3
Okay.
at that, yes. Yep, at the beginning of the year.
Historically, that
Yeah, so when we talked, when we sat and really looked through all of this data, and when we saw the dip, we were curious to see if it happened in prior years. And what we found is that it has happened for the past 2 years as well. So to that brought us, we're noticing and wondering, like, why do we think that's happening? Is it curricular programming? It could be a variety of things looking at cohorts, but because it was happening consistently over the past few years, we need to take a closer look at that to see. The positive is that historically they bump back up and it's okay, but there are things that if we can keep them going on the level, can we take them that much further to the end of the year? So yeah, so we've seen that dip, and so now we have to determine what can we do to best support that. So it's more than just looking at these numbers just for a certain amount of time. It's also important for us to look at them historically, and it just takes some time in that process. And so now once we start to notice trends, we can make some instructional decisions on that.
I love donuts, and I bet dollars to donuts, it's going to be something curricularly related because it's historically happening over and over again. So somewhere along the lines of our curriculum implementation or our assessing of students, somewhere in that gap of time, something is not aligned. So that's my guess. Yep. Good to go. I think I'm working now.
There we go.
Yes. Lenny. There we go. The down button. Stand up again.
Okay, so what this slide is showing you is some Smarter Balanced data. So the Smarter Balanced assessment is a standardized assessment that we give to students, Connecticut gives to students grades 3 through 8 and also in 11th grade. So you're looking at English language arts data right now. What we are looking at is the vertical scale score. What that is how many points a student earned on their Smarter Balanced test. It does not show us proficiency, okay? So make sure we're looking at this as just how many points students scored, not who's proficient, who's below, okay? And there's a reason we need to look at this. One thing that we look at when we look at the vertical scale score is we can compare New Hartford to the average scale score of the state. What's really nice to see is that our last Smarter Balanced in the year 21-22, all of our grade levels averaged about 20 points higher than the state average. So that's a really nice thing for us to see, that we are performing above the state average. The other piece that we want to look at, just as we had mentioned with looking at historical trends, what you're seeing here is the historical trend since 2014 by grade level. So here is third grade in 2014, 2015. It's not a cohort of kids, it's just third graders, okay? Why this is important, if you look, here is our fourth grade, okay? And then fifth and then sixth. What you're noticing there is a really volatile trend, right? We can see some really successful years where the kids earned a lot of points in that vertical scale, but then you can see that we've had some dips. Again, what that suggests to us is there needs to be something changed in our programming. Okay, so that's part of, I know we've been talking about ELA programming. This is one of the indicators that shows us something really needs to be looked at. This line here that you see, this is the COVID year. Please note that doesn't mean that where it hits is a targeted point. It's just a missing point. So it doesn't show us whether we went up or down during that year. Okay, so again, this is just really important data. What you should be noticing with the vertical scale score is you want to see more of a balanced trend line with some rising each year. That tells us that we're improving instruction and that third graders each year or fourth graders each year, we're able to cater that instruction so that they can achieve higher scores on their Smarter Balanced. So as you can see, we have a little bit of crazy data going on here, and we're using that to make informed decisions for our curricular programming. Okay, want me to continue with this? Or do you want to go ahead? Okay, if you did want to look at this as a cohort, we have that for you as well. Okay, this just was kind of what I was talking about. Okay, so let's start with third graders in 2015-16. Okay, so they started down here with their scale score. And then if you look, here they are. Now this cohort moved to fourth grade, and they've increased their scale score by 18 points. Great. Now look at this. We've moved the third graders, same cohort, to fourth grade, same cohort to fifth grade. They jumped 70 points. So that can tell us a lot about that curriculum in that fourth grade. Wow, that was really gave children what they needed to increase achievement. And then when we moved that same cohort to sixth grade, they increased 19 points, which gave us a total of 107 vertical scale points. That shows us growth over time, which is a really important factor to look at, not always just who made the benchmark. And this incorporates all of our students. Anything else you want to add to that? Okay. About math?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Do you have any questions about that? Actually, the math presentation, we're going to show you that same data, but for the math piece of things, so your question may be applicable to both.
All right, so we looked at our math data in the same way. We first started thinking about dibbles, right? When we looked at dibbles, we looked at dibbles across years to see if we noticed trends. Same thing in Smarter Balanced data. In our math data, you'll notice not as many peaks and valleys as we saw in ELA. Thinking about last year's students, we were above the state average in all grade levels. A little bit of a different range between 5 to almost 50 and 60 points. So what does this tell us? Again, so we think, okay, across the way, what do we notice? In 2019, 2020, our sixth grade group, because we notice here, our fifth and sixth graders were performing similarly. So the decision was made that some programming had to be changed. And so in the 1920 school year, our sixth graders adopted illustrative math. And so what the hope was is that with that change in instructional planning, you would begin to see a gap between those grade levels to show growth. Unfortunately, with COVID, we ended that school year remotely. And then the years after that, the next year after that, we had a different learning model. However, in that year after, we did notice a significant increase, but then we did decrease after that in the following year. However, we still did well above the state average by about 25. So what this tells us is that we need to make sure that as we continue to implement illustrative mathematics, we have all of those instructional practices and pieces and supports in place for our teachers and students. That's what I was supposed to say. I think I said all those things. Again, we wanted to look at cohorts. Are they growing? So one way we see, I'm just going to go back to the previous, right? So we look at the trends in the grade level, but we also want to see how do cohorts grow? So going back And I should say that we chose this 15-16 year because we could show you 4 years of growth. Right now, we don't, because we don't have a COVID year with current students. We don't have that data to show. So in 2015, here's where the third grade started. In fourth grade, they were able to grow 33 scale points. Once they went to fifth grade, they grew another 58. And when they went to sixth grade, they grew 4. And so that following year is when we changed the curriculum to illustrative math. Overall, that cohort grew 95 points. Not as much as ELA, but still similar. What does the scale score show? So what does the assessment look like? So the assessment, so all students, it's a computer-based assessment, and the students are assessed on the Common Core standards. And so there's a variety of different questions there's about 35, 36 questions on that math assessment. So it's going to be on numerical reasoning, it's going to be on problem solving, application, it's going to be on multiplication and division, things that are based in their grade level standards. So then so we get this data from the state.
Each question is worth a specific amount of points based off of the question type. And then the state's able to take the results and aggregate them to show us what our average scaled score. So for a sixth grader on average, if we were to pluck any of our sixth graders out of the mix, their score would be in this case, 2540. So that represents sort of how the average sixth grader in our district performed on that particular.
Does the state provide any other comparisons, like other county average to the county average?
Yeah, we started to look at some of the other districts that are close by. Unfortunately, a lot of their data is suppressed is the word that they use for it, because there are so few students and so small, it's too identifiable. So they don't use that.
And then the final piece that students are assessed on is science. And so in fifth grade, eighth grade, and 11th grade, students take what's the NGSS assessment. And so that is going to assess standards from all their previous years, including their current. And so it was first administered in 2018. And so in New Hartford, our scale score in science was a 496. The state average was 500. So in that case, we were below the state average in our scaled score. In 2020-21, the scale score was at 502. And I believe the reason that there's not a state average is because of learning models that year. So some students were still home learning and some students were in school. And so there's not an average scale score there because the learning models were different. However, last year, our fifth graders scale score was a 513, which was well above the state average. So just to look at that a little bit more closely, with these 2 years, 18, 19, and 21 and 22, we're below here. And when we look at percentage of students meeting the benchmark, at the state level, about 51%. In New Hartford, 44% of our students met that benchmark of getting a 3 or a 4. In last school year, 21 and 22, we were above the state average, and we went from the state average was 47 and 75% of our students met that. So we made a significant increase in science over the past 3 years. Oops, sorry. I thought I had one more. I thought I had the big kaboom number. I forgot the kaboom number. Darn.
We didn't kaboom.
We didn't kaboom the number.
Something I think really important is this, we really attribute, we changed our programming in science. We implemented mystery science, which is highly engaging, and we got the results.
Teachers really love implementing mystery science.
It's structured that the structure of it is engaging to students, we're able to look in different ways to incorporate it into our daily schedules and routines from K to 5 as well. So that's another piece. We can offer more consistent science instruction using this model as well. So this gives you a really big picture of where we have been, and now we have some better information to make more informed decisions about where to go next. So should I
Yeah.
kick it off?
Me. Yes,
All right.
thank you. All right, for our next steps, as I was alluding to at the beginning of our presentation, we want to start looking at different forms of assessment to give our practitioners, our educators, a better sense of where kids are along the way versus just waiting until the end of the year and getting one score for a state assessment, for example. So, and DIBELS we do 3 times a year. We want to replicate that throughout our students' academic experience while they're with us. So the STAR assessment is an assessment that we want to utilize. Currently, Region 7, thank you, Region 7, if you're watching online. They are helping us with a implementation for our 6th grade. So for the first time, our 6th graders will take that, and it'll be utilized as an assessment to help with placements and decisions about students' aptitude in mathematics at Region 7. So we will look to do that and make that one of our practices, going all the way back to grades 1 all the way to grade 6 for our STAR assessment data for mathematics. And then we're also going to use STAR as one of our platforms for grade 3 to 6 reading to give us, again, more information about where our students continue to perform or areas that they are not performing well in, so we could pinpoint and work on them from phonemic awareness to comprehension, vocabulary fluency, what have you, whatever it may be, we are going to identify and work with our kids on that. We're going to maintain DIBELS. As you can see, it is one of our dyslexia screeners. It's a very powerful tool that we use in district right now to meet the needs of our kiddos. So we will continue the use of that in kindergarten to 3rd grade. Our new ELA program that we discussed right prior to our Board of Education meeting that we're going to be utilizing has additional curriculum-based assessments, again, to give our educators real-time, in the moment, student performance, how they're doing, how then we can course correct or help support them in their performance at the time that they are with our educators. Illustrative math assessment calibration is something that we need to do. So you saw some of those scores in the 5th and 6th grade. We want to make sure that we're calibrated throughout with our educators. So that will be additional professional development that we will engage in to help our educators become more aligned in their practice of assessment. And then another piece is our progress report alignment. So we're going to be taking a look at our assessments and how they line up with our progress reports, because one of the pieces from the parent survey mentioned when we had our climate survey, and it's also great practice, is we should not just be waiting on the progress report to know how our students are doing. We should have more indicators at more often points in time to let the parents know how are our kids doing. So those are some of our next steps. This will be encompassed as well in our engagement plan or our improvement plan, as you would, for the next 5 years that we'll be presenting in the fall. So we'll be rolling out some next steps for all of this inclusive, taking this information in our new ELA program design and moving that forward in the fall. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. Thank you so much, team, for doing such an amazing job. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will check over my notes. I don't believe I have anything else. No, nothing else. Thank you. Thanks. Yes. End of year, continuing to work on balancing some components to our budget. So you'll see here that there are several line item transfers and line item transfer requests as well. The budget transfers are listed across on the right-hand side from what line item they were coming from to where they are going. Emergency repairs has been something that I've been contending with all year long from an inherited budget and trying to cover anything that needs to be taken care of. Again, as I've mentioned before, descaling of a dishwasher or any other parts that are necessary, or doors that need to be replaced or fixed or locks. Those are all in there. Supplies, testing supplies were shorted this year in terms of utilizing special education teaching supplies. So we've been trying to backfill that and cover that. We've also taken monies from the partial tuition reimbursement that the board has for its members, for its teachers, and using some of those funds to pay for emergency repairs as well. And then we've had additional monies from transportation that are in the black because we've had students return back to us that were outplaced. So we've had some savings there, so we could use those monies to offset a lot of the line items that you see here. On the request forms, on the 22-23 budget request on the top sheet, you'll see there that the Connecticut Junior Republic, which is an amazing partnership that we have within the district, we are looking to request, again, monies from the special education transportation line at a cost of $25,000. That is due to the fact that the behavioral grant that the state of Connecticut had promised to have lifted off and had in the districts has not come to fruition yet. They've been delayed in that for whatever reason. That was supposed to be a grant for $170,000, and we had banked to have at least $25,000 of that to pay for one of our social workers that we connect with the Junior Republic. There are savings in the medical and dental insurance lines. Those are going to be used to cover salaries from the transition of superintendents to interim superintendents to myself. Also to cover deferred comp, which has been an underfunded line, as I've demonstrated in a budget workshop, and at a tune of $26,000 to make sure that our employees are receiving their compensation through their 457 plans. Then you'll see to cover summer transportation, that's our summer school program. We're looking to use monies from the transportation special ed to cover our ESY programming, and then higher than normal fuel costs for buses and for vans and things that we utilize. That's an additional $4,000 request there for the budget transfer, and that's coming out of the tuition line again from a return to district savings from an outplacement. So those are the budget transfer requests and line item transfers.
Would you like a motion to accept them?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2022-2023 budget transfers as requested.
Second by Mary. Jeff, the Junior Republic money,
I got you.
The Junior Republic money, are they just late in that payment?
Nope, the state has not given the funding at all. So Mike Lynch, our director, has done a phenomenal job connecting with them, writing the grant, getting it ready to go. Our team of our special education department and regular education teachers worked diligently last year to survey where the district is in terms of our mental health needs. They've provided all the information to the state. The state has dropped the ball on that. It's the best that I could state because we haven't received any other correspondence short that their director has not moved this forward.
But that's money that they committed to fund.
They did, and in the previous budget, that was what was going to be utilized to
Right.
pay this.
Right.
That money never came to fruition.
Okay.
We had some savings in with the transportation special education, so we were using that for that instead to help pay for that social worker. And that's for this fiscal year.
But I guess my question is, we're still anticipating to get that 25,000 funded at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully next year.
And it'll just be 25,000 or possibly more.
170, I believe, is the amount, Mike. Am I speaking correctly, or is it 120? Thank you.
And that's what our district gets?
Yes,
Okay,
170.
but they haven't agreed to the 170.
They haven't given it to anybody. We were supposed to be receiving this through a pilot,
Right.
and it did not come to fruition just yet, believing that it will for next year.
Is that the total cost? For the
No,
I can't
no.
remember the total cost.
Total cost, I believe, to us is $50,000.
50.
Yep. So we had budgeted for half, and then the grant was supposed to cover the other half. Didn't happen.
and I know your answer to this, but we still find value in that program.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
They are a tremendous resource for us in connecting our families to outside supports and help. Invaluable.
Okay.
Invaluable. This is a,
What happens if that grant never comes through? I mean, then we have to budget for that.
correct. Yeah. Mike has a backup plan, as I'm being informed. So if that grant doesn't come to fruition, we've applied for another.
And is this CJR program all a part of our special ed budget?
It is, that's where it's housed primarily. Yes,
And
sir.
Is there any way we can start to get a breakdown of like everything our special education department is in charge of,
Yes, we've started working on that.
so that we can all kind of be better informed about that?
Yeah, some of the historical pieces that I shared, and it's
Yeah.
also in your packet, that's that groundwork
Right.
that's starting. My next plan with Mike is to then lay out occupational therapists, speech language pathologists, school psychologists, social work, to see how much the need it continues to increase and
Right.
what our response will be in budgeting for that going forward.
And to that point too, the difference in students we've had from beginning till now that you showed us, how much increase has there been in actual help for the special education department to cover the 30+ students that we've had enter into this program since your first year was 2015 that you showed, right?
Yeah, I'm current,
Now,
yeah, so the numbers are what they demonstrate there, Travis. And I'm going to continue to work on advocating and supporting our students with the partnership of our teachers and staff and with Mike directing that, so that next year's proposal for special education will have a little bit more to it, a little bit more meat, as I've shared at one of our budget workshops. Want more family input, community input into our budget.
so there hasn't been physical bodies added to special education to help with that extra 30 students.
All right, just for this year in particular? I mean,
I know it's hard to just,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you know off the top of your head.
off the top of my head, no. Since I've arrived, my understanding is that the needs that students have now are being met.
Mm.
As other things come to the table, because it could change on a dime,
Right.
then we respond and provide supports the best that we can. If it's out of our budget scheme
Right.
that we can't afford, then our charge is for me to go before the Board of Finance and ask for that support.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I don't see anything in here. Are we discuss the second grade class, seeing that we're talking about budget right now?
Well, we're not talking about budget.
It's not on the agenda.
Oh,
We're not.
okay, is it going to be at some point? Because I know that, you know,
We could add it to a future agenda item. No, it's not under new business.
We can add it to a
Can we do
future
that?
agenda.
make sure that happens for the next meeting.
Why can't you add it to this meeting? This is a regular meeting. Why can't you add it under new business? It's only special
We
meetings
could-
that you can't add
I didn't
agenda
have it.
items.
I didn't have it on an agenda item to discuss today. We did not have that.
No, but under new business, that could be something, you can add it because this is a regular meeting, not a special meeting.
We'd have
Regular
to-
meetings,
We'd
you
have to
can-
vote to add an agenda item.
Because this was posted publicly.
Can we finish
wait-
the
let's wait till-
transfer request first?
Let's wait till new business.
So-
Anything
We have a motion and a second.
we do?
So this tuition line, does that include the money that we get from for that one student that pays tuition? Is that what's included in there?
No, this would be, give me a minute. No, this is tuition monies that were at a savings to the district because a student has returned to the district
Okay,
from outplacement.
okay,
That's separate. That hasn't even been added to the sheets yet.
okay.
Any other questions, comments before we vote? All right, all those in favor of of approving the budget transfers? Unanimous. Thank you. All right, moving on to the minutes. If nobody has a question on the minutes or issues, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Any second? Travis seconds. Any discussion? Are we good with the minutes? A plus, Colleen. A plus.
I'm gonna stay because I was here.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Mary? Oh, you weren't here either. Everyone except Mary and Tony. Abstentions. You guys gonna abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. Mary and Tony abstain. Oh. I'll give her the credit. Moving on to the expenditure report. Can I have a motion to approve the expenditure report?
So moved.
By Penny. A second. Travis, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Let's go through the policies. This is the first reading of the policies. And Mary will take us through that. We have, is it 5 policies?
That was 4.
4?
4 policies.
Okay. And you guys met a couple weeks ago now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. April.
Well, good.
Okay. So, the first policy is P4113.12. This will be a new policy to consider, as proposed by CABE, and it has to do with the minimum duty lunch periods for teachers. So to be in compliance, the Board of Ed would provide a minimum 30-minute uninterrupted lunch period for teachers and other certified staff.
I hope we do that now.
We do.
Okay.
Correct. We do that now,
We
but
do.
it should be
Thank
as
you.
one of our board policies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I'm looking at the wrong. Yeah. maybe not one.
Oh, that's all right.
So the next one,
Class
yeah,
size.
but there's no
Yeah.
policy number
We don't.
for that one.
We adopted that.
Okay,
Okay.
so this is, a proposed class size policy. So regular classroom teacher positions for pre-K is an 18-to-1 ratio, 20-to-1 for grades K through 2, and 25-to-1 for grades 3 through 6. So this was in the
This currently,
This is in the,
this current language exists in the teacher's contract,
contract, yeah.
should not be in the teacher's contract. It should be by the board. So the board is informed of how to make decisions regarding every single year for budget purposes. This, in my opinion, provides almost a barrier or an unfair practice for teachers, for parents to say, I'm not going to receive any more than 25 kids. That's not the teacher's responsibility. The board should be setting class size policy to provide the best optimal environment for our educators, not have it within their contract alone. It should be a board policy that's longstanding. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
actually, yes, it does, but actually lower.
Mhm.
Lower than the guidelines that are set before in their contract. Correct. I believe the current contract language is 25, maxed out throughout.
Mhm.
Yes, from CABE, from Ed Advance, and from other districts that also have class sizes within their policies. Yeah, it's coming up. Yes, sir.
This was really meant to formalize, these are guidelines, obviously, they're not 100% in a contract, but this is what the board, as our policy, wants to follow as far as classroom size. setting that because it was never set before.
Okay.
Yes. Very
Yeah, as first reading, we can certainly discuss that, and also at the next reading. That's why they take two consecutive board meetings. And Mike will be working on additional pre-K policy. We don't have one that's solidified and explained very well, so Mike Lynch and the team will be working on that too to fully flesh that out. What is our pre-K philosophy? Everything from payment to what the curriculum looks like, all of that, Mike will be taking care of that. So could be up for discussion between now and our next Board of Education meeting as well. In terms of just class sizes. So it's, I believe we started the year when I wasn't here, 15 maybe. I looked at Mike, but Mike wasn't here either. We started lower, but as students are identified as needing supports or services, or if their daycare that they're in or their preschool setting can't provide those services, they come to us for public education. So we are at 18 in one section and yeah, I have currently that we have the two sections at 18. I'm sorry? Not pre-K, no.
Okay.
Pre-K will stay the same, two sections. One pre-K 3 and pre-K 4.
say 18. That without one teacher with
No, that's with para educator support too in that classroom.
how many?
How many paras? At least one. Can fluctuate. No, outside of a student needing additional support or assistance, be an IEP.
No.
One teacher and one para. Yes, sir. That's the baseline to function off of, and then build up from there as needed. Yeah, that's currently our structure now, Travis. Yeah, I'm not proposing a change to that.
Paul, I'm getting some feedback on the back speaker.
Anything else on that? The class size?
Okay,
Okay.
next one is the discipline.
Next, yes, no, yes. So P5144.4A. The physical exercise and discipline of students. Everything that's redlined is proposed to be removed and replaced by the red print. This addresses not taking recess away as a discipline.
Is that the only change? It looks like.
Yeah.
Any questions on that change?
Just as a quick historical, this is our current practice. We're just putting it into our policy.
So
Yep, it's any school employee. They're going to be, if it was educator who was implementing a loss of time for recess. They're gonna, if they don't know the student well, they're gonna obviously consult with those that would have them, their classroom teacher, administration if necessary, to make sure that they're abiding by the child's behavior plans if necessary, whatever it may be. So it can be any school employee may employ this, and they're gonna be functioning within their, well within their authority to do so. Are you thinking of something in particular, like a recess aid or? Yeah. That's how it is. That's how it's done. Yeah. Cafeteria workers, a school employee, you know, for fresh picks, but they're not going to be instituting the discipline. They're going to consult with the teacher that's on duty at the time or the classroom teacher to discuss and obviously ameliorate the situation with the student and have it be a learning opportunity because we all make mistakes.
I'm confused on the bottom paragraph there. Recess prevention or restriction may be imposed only once during the school week. So what are we saying? What does that mean? Does that mean are we saying that they can't use recess once a week?
They can if it's within their, this child is so in need of a restricted area, so they're not with their peers because of health and safety reasons. So they may have an alternative recess, which again is part of our practice that we have in place now. Parents are informed, they're understood why, and we discuss that with them. Yeah. So it's not just done under the veil. We are discussing that with our constituents or our parents and or caregivers to share why we feel that it's important to take care of our kiddos and make sure that their safety and the well-being of others is also taken into consideration before making those types of decisions.
We'll move on to the last one.
This one is P5113.2A regarding attendance. And we're just adding number 10 in red.
Just to give some quick background, nothing is changing relative to our attendance policy. We believe strongly that students should be in school learning outside of health. If they have something that they need to take care of for themselves, we want them to be in a great state of mind and to physically be able to come to school and feel well outside of illness or any other excused absences. Number 10 has been added so that if parents at home or caregivers are having a tough time with students coming to school for whatever reason, this provides an additional resource as 211 to connect with them, and they provide services and support and resources in home. So we want to make sure that we're informing parents of that during our attendance meetings. That's essentially what this is.
Doing good. All right. Thank you, Mary. So we'll do the last reading next in our June meeting. All right. Does someone want to add second grade section to the agenda?
I make a motion that we add second grade session to our agenda,
Discussion.
discussion to our agenda.
Travis, a second. We have to vote 2/3 to add an item to the agenda. All those in favor? Great, keep your hands raised. Deirdre, are you up? Okay. Keep your, sorry. Try 1, 2, 3,
4, 5,
6. So that's 2/3,
Two-thirds.
right on the dot. Did you get all of them, Kelly? Okay. All right. So under new business, we will add discussion of second grade section. Um, you want to talk about?
I know that our policy states that our class sizes for second grade is 20 to 1. But I feel like we should strive to keep our class sizes smaller than that. That's what brought to my attention that this particular first grade class going into second has a lot of needs, educationally and behaviorally. And I think we need to really consider adding a section back.
First grade going into the second grade. And that's the section we removed from the budget due to our $90,000 cut that we had to
We need
make.
to look at the budget again and find the money somewhere else. We need to add that section.
That is up for, we're working towards adding that to the November referendum so that we have funds frozen, not educational funds, but, Jeff provided those painting funds and other funds that we have set aside to reserve for that. Possible. Subject to referendum. It's like painting and things like that.
That money was already in the budget.
Yeah.
Correct. That money is in the budget. $90,000, give or take, plus or minus.
What's it going from to? Going forward down the tree is what?
It was going, it's about.
Sure. Yeah, it fluctuated slightly. I had a couple kids from kindergarten that enrolled in New Hartford, New York, not New Hartford, Connecticut. So a couple of those kids are not coming for the kindergarten cohort. So it takes us, we're below the 60 threshold there. And to answer the question of current second graders now, or sorry, current first graders now, we have an average class size of 15 and a half. We have 62 students with 4 sections, so we're at 15 and a half there for the grade 1 cohort as it stands now. The recommendation at the time was to move to the 3. With the cutting or the transferring of that teacher from second grade to another grade and maybe having a ripple effect to cover the 4th section of kindergarten. So that section in second grade would go from 62 students, 4 sections at 15 and a half to 62 students, 3 sections, 20.7. So sections of either 20 or 21 is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Could be, I can't project it definitively, but yeah, we have a larger cohort that will be leaving next year too, a cohort of 74 students in the 5th grade currently that will be going to 6th grade.
I mean, I'd like to suggest that we give Jeff some time to, we're talking about next school year. I'd like to suggest we give Jeff some time to evaluate, potentially reevaluate what he would recommend for the second grade sections. And if enrollment changes in the next month, maybe we'll have more new information to see if he would recommend something different.
So.
Sure.
If there is a referendum in November on the security or $75,000, and it fails, we have $75,000 for
Not necessarily. That money is earmarked currently for painting projects, maintenance projects, surplus propane. It's up to the board to decide that. Right now, it's earmarked from a maintenance component and those non-instructionals to that of a security guard pending referendum question. If that fails, then we have a recourse to either put that back in where it was originally earmarked, but then it's too late. It's November. We need to have this in place before the school year starts to meet the needs of all of our kindergartners and the needs of our second graders. So I'll never prohibit the board from discussing with educators, but that information should be coming from me by talking to the principals and by talking to the teachers and hearing the needs and becoming aware of that and then coming back here to present to all of you. But I'm not going to discourage conversation, of course, but that information should be presented from the superintendent of schools, coming from all of the constituents. And we've heard so far from parents via email, and I will continue to collect more information. I'd be more than happy to present recommendations on June the 6th. I can. Without identifying students' names and things of that nature, I cannot do that. Yeah.
I know.
We as a board approve the budget for the night. So I think. We as a group supported the budget.
I'm all enough.
I just suggested that.
Okay, sorry, Kelly. So I think this kind of goes back to some of our discussions too, like right around budget time, right, and security guard and special ed. I'm just failing to see why we can't seem to actually make anything happen other than, I suppose, armed security guard at the school. So like the same amount of effort and expediency that was put through, why can't we do that same thing for the educational needs that we think are necessary? So instead of just pushing it off, we were supposed to today be talking in depth about some of this special ed situation that had come up before budget. I understand the whole issue with board of finance, right? That's kind of where the buck stops, right? So there still has to be some sort of effort made, I feel like, by us to reach for the stars, right? We want our kids to outperform and do the best they can. And it doesn't seem like we're trying to do the same thing. So, Jeff, I understand you can only present us with information given to you by teachers, staff, administration, etc. And the decision is up to us to actually make something happen, right? You can't just snap your fingers and have us do something. So my question again, how do we do something about this now? Not like next year when budget comes around and then it's, oh, we can't talk about this right now. How, like, what are the steps? What do we do? What do we do?
So I think we went through the steps. I think we all put our best foot forward to present a budget. Now, you said it's not adequate. That's your opinion. Okay, I give you your opinion all day long. We have $9 million worth of budget that I think is a sound budget that supports the education based on Jeff's recommendation. So to say that we are doing nothing, I disagree with. We did a lot. We spent a lot of hours in here, and this I didn't want to cut the teacher any more than anyone else did,
But we did.
But we also did a lot of positive things. Which I don't want you come across like all we do is cut and do negative. That's you're working from the other side of the coin here. We added $9 million from zero because we don't have any money until we asked for it. We started at zero and we went to 9 million. Okay, we didn't go to 9,075,000. We went to 9 million, which is a lot of work to get. Ask our town here. We have nothing. We want 9 million. Okay, so that's not nothing. That's all I'll say to that.
And what's the harm in, as a board, us asking to fund an extra special education teacher, to bring back this second grade teacher? Why is that difficult? And this question isn't to anyone specific, to the group of us here. Why does that seem like such a negative point? Like, to just, we need some help in this situation, we need support here, let's try to get that support. And then if we're met by the Board of Finance or that next level that we can't reach above, if that's met with, no, you can't have this, then that's okay. We did our part, right? We're trying to give the best we can to the kids. It just doesn't ever seem like we're trying to push for that. It just seems like we're always trying to look at this from how little can we spend? How can we spend less? How can we keep doing more with less? Which has to be a part of the equation, right? But for us here, as volunteer members, parents, it just seems like our first action isn't to get the most support we can. So as the chair, how do you feel about that, and how could we maybe move towards that? No, special education isn't just about a kid with special needs, though. Special education encompasses much more than just a disability, right? Yeah. Okay. I keep hearing that, but you guys all voted for it.
And we did.
So
We went into $90,000 and it got cut. It's not like we went in and cut it.
Can I ask a question, Jeff? When you brought the original website, I feel like it's attached. So, when you brought the original budget, did she have recommendations for number specialists?
I did, and I also had the recommendation for, I had the recommendation for the additional teacher not moving, and then the special education support person was added afterward, after we discussed.
We brought the period. The special education teacher, for the minor right here, that was put in, not in your original budget. And you only brought a discussion when we had a discussion about the period. And then all of a sudden it came out of nowhere that all of a sudden you or somebody else didn't bring it because we needed to. So I'm looking at the sheet that you provided for us, right? And you keep saying that we're not supporting.
You can use my name. You can use my name. My name's Travis.
Let's not have another meeting like this, please.
So I just want to say, so that, so looking at the numbers, has shows that we are supporting our teachers and our children. Would we all love to support them more? Absolutely. Would we love to have more teachers? Yes, absolutely. However, we have to be stewards of the taxpayer in town, as well as represent the needs of the students and our teachers. That is our job. There are lots of people in town who don't have children who do not want to hire taxpayers.
And there's lots of people in town who don't.
So,
have-
I
would-
would,
Can you find that in our bylaws where it says we have to make sure?
Can I finish my thought?
Deirdre, finish. Travis, let
I
her,
would
let her
really
speak.
like to be respected and like to be represented. We send a survey out, and there were a lot of parents who expressed the need for security. We did the right phone call, what we were asked to do. What are we gonna do about that? And the representation, so in an ideal world, every single person on this board would like to add way more resources for our children and our teachers. We get that. But you all keep forgetting that we have to be stewards of the taxpayers. The taxpayers in town, as well as representing the teachers and the students. And that's a really hard balance to do. But to be up here and stating for the public, there's few of us on the board that don't support the teachers, that we're doing absolutely nothing for resources in the budget, when we have 9 million in the budget. That shows a lot of resources to support. And also looking at the spend numbers, it's pretty significant that we continue to increase. So I don't think it's fair to say we're doing nothing.
Nobody's saying we're doing nothing
Well,
here.
we just heard that tonight.
No, I didn't hear one person here say that we were doing nothing. Not one
Let's-
person.
Folks, let's save this for our self-assessment
But you
and
know what?
executive
You have a
session,
first
please.
grader going into second grade.
Kelly,
I'm concerned.
so we're talking about the second grade. I'd like to suggest that Jeff takes this back Maybe there's new information, maybe things will change in the next month. We have a meeting in June, well before the beginning of the fall classes, well before teacher assignments and all that. Let's ask him to see if he would recommend a different path than removing that second grade section and take it from there.
So is there, so we want to push this off to June. And
Is that
you
what we're
know, like,
saying, the June?
everything else aside, just, I've been saying this every meeting,
We know,
right?
I
So
know.
like, I just,
Let's
why
talk.
can't we do, but we don't, this is our time to speak and talk about it. I understand it's difficult. Sometimes it gets a little testy and that's
Yeah, but
whatever,
Travis,
right?
if
But
they're
we don't-
committed to talking about it in June, I'm okay with that.
I'm not though, because I've been talking about this since I first got on the board.
Well, we're not going to find $90,000 to add
You
it.
gotta give
I
such.
get-
He has to see if we
No, I
can.
understand. So I get the money aside, right? The money aside. When, just because this is the comparison we keep making and it's here, right? When there was the concern about security, they followed the right steps, right? They went and they asked people, survey went out, right? They got responses back from that. Now we have a referendum coming up in November. Now, why can't we do the same thing for other aspects of our education here? The same exact thing.
Our budget went to referendum and it was approved.
But you're not answering my question.
Hey, what do you want me to do? It went to
I
referendum.
want us, and I don't want it to be a you or me thing, right? Because our power comes from the group, not from any one of us. So we did all this stuff for security. Can we do the same thing for education and whatever that may need, right? So maybe there is a need for this teacher, but maybe the community says there isn't. Maybe there is this need for an extra special ed teacher. Maybe there isn't. Maybe the community agrees or doesn't. But why can't we take those same steps that we did for security for this?
We can, we would happily put a few $100,000 more in the budget for other curriculum or teachers, but we have to present that to the Board of
And I
Finance.
would have passed, right? We all know. I would have passed it. If we added $200,000 to that budget, seeing the turnout we had for this referendum, right, which was no one, it probably would have passed. But Board of Finance dictates what we can spend.
That is correct.
That's what we're spending.
And,
We could have added $1 million and it might have passed. Who knows? But the town got the budget that was given to them from us after the Board of Finance. They voted, it passed. If they didn't like it, if they said, where's that teacher? Like we all did during the Bakerville thing, we threatened to have the budget shut down. And we could have done it. But if there was an outcry for that teacher and the budget would have failed, and we could have said, why did it fail? And they would have told us why it failed.
that's right.
That's how the process works. That's how it works.
I agree with you. I'm not
So I don't
disagreeing with
understand what
that.
you're asking, what
So
more
what I'm
we should
saying is,
do.
no, so
I
here's,
don't want to raise
my,
my voice.
no,
I
I
don't
understand.
what more we
I
can do.
completely understand. When you guys got the security issue, you went and we, as a board, we created a subcommittee. We looked at security through subcommittee. We then created a survey that went out to teachers, staff, members of the community. That feedback came back, right? This was all before we even put a number in a budget at that point. This was all discussion.
There is still no money in the budget for
Right,
security.
right, which is, I understand the budget part of it, Carl,
Okay.
100%. But those steps, a subcommittee to look at where our teachers, where our staff needs
Right.
help. Maybe a survey sent out to parents and community members,
We-
what they think.
We have a curriculum subcommittee. We have 6 or 7 other subcommittees. We have, we have a survey that goes out. You know,
I think what I'm at.
the
what we're
reason we
asking-
have the reason we had a subcommittee on security is because none of us are security experts. I don't know anything about
But
it.
none of us are educational
But-
experts.
We have those experts right here.
And we're asking
This
Jeff
is-
now to go back and ask the teachers their opinion. And where the
That-
needs are, if that second grade class is in fact, in need of another section, that's his job to go back and communicate.
We don't need a subcommittee for that. We have Jeff. He is our subcommittee.
I'm gonna keep doing this every meeting,
I know.
just letting you know.
Well, we'll talk about it. All right. Anything else on second grade section? You guys good with Jeff taking a look? I mean, we should always be doing this.
It'll be on the agenda.
It'll be on the agenda. I mean, Jeff and I talk a lot. He's always evaluating the changing needs of the district. You know, they might not change next month, but if they do, maybe he'll have some new information for us.
Does the Board of Finance know that? For the class? Do they know that?
No, they just
To give us
asked
a monetary amount.
That's right, 90,000.
Board of Finance bring up that.
They did, but they can't dictate to us how we, right.
Yeah, I use the breath to jump to. Yeah, I'll, yeah. What? What? Thank you. And after we're asked to jump.
Correct.
Are there needs there that bring us back to the Board of Finance? And at budget time, we didn't have. We didn't have. Okay.
And my concern is we're right there. Actually, he said 20.7. So technically we're over. I mean, we're breaking our own policy. So, and it's May, so a lot can happen before school starts. You get a couple more families that move into town. We're gonna come back and have this conversation again. And we're gonna have to put in another section.
So we will put on the agenda for next month. Any other comments? All right, moving on to old business. Jeff has a quick little update here.
Just some quick updates regarding our RESC Alliance. I've been in contact with Dr. Jeff Kitching and also Dr. Greg Florio. Dr. Greg Florio is with CREC, and he's the chief executive operator there. And Dr. Kitching, who came to our meeting last time, is the chief operator for Ed Advance. And both our board and their board have agreed that we can move. I'm just waiting on a letter to make it official and then to send that over to the state of Connecticut. So Tim, you'd asked the question regarding policies and support and help and RESC Alliance. So we're almost official. As soon as I get the letter in hand, I will absolutely share it with the board and send it on to the state of Connecticut. Just a quick update there.
That's great, thank you. Moving on to reports, we don't have any, unless you do. So I will ask for a motion to enter executive session for the New Hartford Board of Education self-assessment.
So moved.
By Penny, second. Travis, seconds. All those in favor? Keep your hands up. All those opposed? Tom opposes. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Congratulations. Sorry.